Hello, and welcome to Type Talk with your host, Jonah Dempsey. I just streamed for 79 minutes with the wrong stream key. My stream key somehow changed, but I'm just trying to keep a good mood about it. And I'm gonna cut this one short because I have to leave in about half an hour. But God, I'm just if somebody else does something, I'm not really too mad, but I get so mad at myself if I make a mistake like that. And there's not even really a good reason to, because, hey, it was a good practice stream. It's just that, I talked for like an hour and 20 minutes, and all these good ideas came out that, I think they're all still in there somewhere. I mean, that's kind of the thing is, anytime I lose something like that. Well, for one thing, I think I blame myself a lot because I'm an INTJ, and I have inferior extroverted sensing, and so I kind of beat myself up about it. Like, why didn't I notice that? Why didn't I check it? I just, I beat myself up. I mean, I've had this happen before, making music where the microphone fader was down all the way and it didn't record, or even last week I recorded a whole interview and the microphone was turned off, and I really get pretty harsh on myself about it. But then besides that, I think there's just this fear that I'm not going to be able to capture some interesting insight, and I think that's really unwarranted. And if that is true, then I need to change, because I should be able to, if I'm just kind of brainstorming and if I'm not actually keeping any of the ideas, that's not, that's not really, that's something I should work on. I think about James Hillman, the great post-Jungian writer, and James Hillman is this incredible theorist, psychologist who really spearheaded and maybe even created the field of archetypal psychology. And Hillman uses myths, much as Jung did, to amplify, meaning to kind of shed light on different psychological phenomena. And Hillman talks about a particular god from ancient Greece who kind of is this boy god. He represents youthfulness, and this is in Hillman's essay on the puer aeternus, which is Latin for eternal boy. And he's talking about this sort of boyish, childish attitude that immediately forgets what it said, that you can thwart it by saying, repeat that, because it can't repeat it. And I think I have a bit of the puer in me, because I immediately I got this image of, he's talking about one of the statues for this boy god, and the statue has only the back of the head shaved. It's like this entire back of the head is completely shaved. And Hillman says that this symbolizes the inability to remember. That as soon as something is said, it's lost. It just goes right out the back. So anyway, I kind of had the wind taken out of my sails because I was so happy with what a great stream it was. And then I just realized I wasn't streaming. I was waiting and waiting and hitting refresh to look at the video, and it was done. And that's just the way it is. But okay, but now that I've had a rehearsal, now I think I'm ready to talk about it. So I'm going to just go ahead with it. So welcome to Talking Type with your host, Jonah Dempsey. Today we're going to be talking about extroverted intuition, and particularly how it relates to the physical world. So we're going to be talking about ENTPs and ENFPs and what is their relationship to the physical. And, it's kind of a common trope that the ESTP and the ESFP, because of their extroverted sensation, have a special connection to the physical world. That their connection is based on their extroverted sensation, the ability to be immersed fully in an experience, and a predisposition for physical activity and stuff like that. But I want to talk about extroverted intuitives and how they relate to the physical, and I mostly want to clear up what I think is some confusion that extroverted intuitives are only really working within the realm of concepts. So first, I would like to talk about the book Functions of Type by Gary Hartzloff and his wife Margaret Hartzloff. And Functions of Type is a book that has practices for each cognitive function. So you can practice each function to see, how good you are at it, and also to try to get better at it, just to try to put yourself into that state of mind and kind of see how you experience it. And so they have one for extroverted sensations, kind of an unusual one, but I think it gets the point across, where you drive your car and you merge with the car, and you look at the gas station and you feel thirsty because you're like, ooh, gas, yeah. And you rev the engine and you feel power, and you feel the power surge through you as you rev the gas pedal. And you pump the gas and you feel that thirst get quenched. And this is because you have merged with the object. You have merged with the physical, and you've immersed yourself in it. They have another where you're blindfolded and you have a friend give you a blindfolded taste test. These are their kind of SE things that they do. Then for NE, they have this ideational experiment where you try to brainstorm, no matter how far-fetched, without thinking of it first, without any sort of prior reflection, and without, no matter how out there it is, you try to brainstorm all the ways to solve hygiene problems in third world countries. And when I did the stream and I talked about this, I actually tried, and maybe it's a good thing that the stream didn't go through, because I was pretty poor at it, and I ended up shifting. I tried. I think I came up with I came up with a really weird one after 2 minutes. It was painful. It would have been painful to watch. I came up with I was thinking of those dogs, that rescue you in the snow, and they have the little thing around their neck, and it has scotch or whiskey or rum or something in it. Saint Bernard. So I was like, oh, have Saint Bernards that have little, hygiene things. But then I got totally off track, and I ideated on what is hygiene. And that's actually maybe interesting. I'll do a short version here, because basically what I was trying to get at is that the extroverted intuitive is going to have all these different ideas for solving hygiene in third world countries. And they're going to be really far-fetched. They're going to be and I can only repeat these because I've heard others say them or because I thought of them previously. I'm remembering. I'm not coming up with them because I am an INTJ. I'm not coming up with these on the spur of the moment, but they're like airdrop toothbrushes, or build clean water faucets into, I don't even know what, but but the extrovert intuitives, the ENTPs and the ENFPs, are going to have all these wild, far-fetched ideas. Well, for me, being an INTJ, my NI goes deep into what the thing is. So my version of it was, I'm going to go really deep into what is hygiene. And I came up with kind of hygiene is the external version of what your body does internally when it fights bacteria, when it fights infection, when it fights viruses, things like that. Your body creates antibodies, and it does all this stuff. And hygiene is kind of the external version where your mind is able to act in certain ways to control the body to physically clean either itself or its environment. And then I talked about psychological hygiene, psychic hygiene. I talked about Antonio Damasio, who wrote a book where he talks about Stoicism. And Stoicism has these practices where you imagine really traumatic things happening, and you do it, as Damasio says, to develop anti-passion antibodies. So you can be dispassionate in a crisis situation. So you can be desensitized to the traumas that have afflicted you, and so on. And so anyway, I won't go into that whole rabbit hole because I just talked about it for 20 minutes in the last stream. But what I was trying to do was, show the difference in NE and NI, and I kind of did it also as an inadvertent cop-out because it was really hard for me to NE ideate. I had a really hard time coming up with ideas for solving hygiene problems in third world countries, so instead I dug really deep into it. And it's also just to illustrate the difference between the two, because some people might confuse my wide-ranging synthesis of all these different things for NE. They might say, oh, wow, you're bringing up Stoicism, and you're bringing up Antonio Damasio, and you're bringing up all these different things. You must be an NE user because you're bringing in all these different concepts. And I was showing no, because I'm going deep into one concept, hygiene. And I'm giving it all these different examples and different approaches to that single concept. The concept is the hub, and these are the spokes from that hub. And it's very different than coming up with a lot of ideas for hygiene in third world countries. Okay, so basically the book Functions of Type shows SE, and it goes, okay, yeah, like physical things, like being immersed, merging with your car and feeling at one with it, or playing a sports game and pretending you are the ball, or, being so immersed in a physical situation that you experience the external stimulus directly, compared to introverted sensation, which can be experiencing your inner comfort level, hunger level, body, and so on. So we have functions of type saying extroverted sensation is kind of this physical thing. Extroverted intuition is coming up with ideas. Okay, so what I wanted to get at, though, is that these ideas can actually be about the physical, though. They can. They can be about physical things. They can be... Because ideas always need a medium of expression. An extroverted sensing idea... I have a friend who's an ISTP who's always modding his car. He has the idea, oh, what happens if I lowered it? What happens if I replace the hubcaps like that? What happens if I put a grill on like this? What happens if I do a matte finish here? He has all sorts of ideas. They are just SE ideas. So it's not like intuitives live in the world of ideas. The French philosopher Gilles Deleuze said that an idea always has a medium. You have an idea for a play, an idea for a painting, an idea for a new recipe to try out, an idea for a spice to add to this dish. There's all different kinds of ideas. So just because the extrovert intuitive can ideate how to solve hygiene problems in third world countries does not mean that they have the monopoly on ideas. So it's not really about ideas. So then I started looking at unofficial objective personality Facebook group. This is a really good Facebook group for the objective personality system. It's the unofficial objective personality study group on Facebook. And on there, we talk a lot about the difference in extroverted intuition and introverted intuition, and we just talk about the functions quite a bit. And so there are these definitions put forth by Dave Powers and Shan Renee, the founders of the objective personality system, and their definitions are generally speaking that intuition has to do with patterns, but they also say it has to do with concepts. And extroverted sensing is gathering data, whereas they say extroverted intuition is gathering patterns or gathering concepts. And introverted sensing is organizing data, and introverted intuition is organizing patterns or organizing concepts. So I don't really like these definitions very much. And I had a really great... it's hard because I'm letting my frustration come out about losing the hour and 20 minutes I just gave, because I'm like, oh, I had such a good... I guess I'll just do it again. I'll do it again. The only thing is, right now it's 7:30, and I'm supposed to meet my friend at 8 p.m., and so I'm really going to make him wait. So I think I'm going to have to do this in two parts. So for the first part, I'm just going to give their definitions, and then I'm going to read what I had to say about it, and I'll wrap it up. Then I'm going to do a follow-up, continuing the same topic, because I have some other examples that I kind of want to go into here. And but basically when Dave and Shannon say that extroverted intuition is gathering concepts, I don't think so. And I have this example, which I'll get to when I read it, because I posted it in the unofficial Objective Personality Facebook group. And my example was a restaurateur, someone who owns a restaurant. And say they're an ENFP. And an ENFP who owns a restaurant is not going to be asking people who come in, hey, what concepts do you have? What idea do you have for my restaurant? What is your impression of this place? What do you think about this? Now, there is a way that the ENFP and the ENTP do gather a lot of concepts, which is that they seem to be very interested in the ideas other people have. Like they'll read a book, and take interest in that idea. So I see that. But I think what they're actually gathering more often than not is patterns, and patterns, just like ideas, can be conceptual or not. There are conceptual patterns, and there are also non-conceptual patterns that exist in the physical world. There are emotional patterns. There are, patterns work on all different levels, just like ideas work on all different levels. So just like an extroverted sensing type might have an idea, an extroverted sensing idea, like a different recipe they want to try out, the extroverted intuitive, might see a pattern totally in the physical world. So that's what I was getting at with the extroverted intuitive's relation to the physical, is that they observe physical patterns. It's not that their patterns are always conceptual patterns. It's not like, and besides, observing conceptual patterns, say I read a bunch of Hegel and I go, wow, I've observed the pattern that Hegel tends to organize into trinities, triads. He has a very trinary logic. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. He puts his concepts into trinaries, and he has a repeating cycle of trinary logic. Well, just because I notice that does not mean that I'm gathering a pattern. I mean, I'm an INTJ, and I organize patterns, and as I'm reading his work, I'm noticing the way he's organized it. So noticing how something's organized is, I guess what I'm trying to say is that objective personality says the extroverted intuitive is going to be continually attending to patterns. They're going to be observing patterns and gathering patterns and noticing patterns. And what I'm saying is that it's not only the case. They will be noticing patterns, yes, but they're going to be noticing patterns in the physical world too. They might not even notice the same thematic content that an introverted intuitive might. The introverted intuitive is going to be going to the essence of the thing, and the extroverted intuitive is going to be noticing repetitions sometimes, just what seems to happen frequently, or trends, or where things seem to be going. So I'm just going to read now what my original post on the objective personality group is. So here's what I posted on the unofficial objective personality group. Controversial opinion. NE can be every bit as physical as SE. The difference is that NE observes patterns in the physical, while SE observes facts. Imagine the owner of a restaurant watching what happens over the course of a day. SE user. The pasta was not al dente enough. The bread was not served hot enough. The sauce turned out perfectly. The consistency of the salad dressing was too thin. The SE user still won't want to draw any conclusions about this because OE functions, that is, extroverted observing functions, SE and NE, refuse to draw conclusions. That's OI, the introverted observing functions, SI and NI. But the SE user will cook the pasta, that should be shorter next time, serve the bread faster, not change anything about the sauce, and make the salad dressing thicker. NE user. People tend to come in mostly from 12 to 2 p.m. and again from 8 to 10 p.m. They mostly sit on the left side of the room. They come in groups of 2 primarily. The average amount of time they stay is 45 minutes. NE also won't make conclusions from this. They will delay as long as possible drawing any big conclusions. But because NE is an action function like SE, they will take little actions. Let's start a happy hour from 6 to 8 p.m. to see if more people will show up. Let's make the right side of the room more desirable to sit in by tweaking little things that improve the likelihood of people choosing those chairs. Like, say, putting a screen, I shouldn't say screen door, by putting a room divider screen and plants between the tables in the bathroom. NE will keep tweaking little things without drawing any big conclusions, in order to make minor adjustments that change the patterns. OI users will make big conclusions, let's say. Like the NI user. In general, we seem to be focusing too much on food quality and not enough on service. In general, we seem to be, etc. Or the SI user. What worked in the past was ... so I conclude we should try XYZ. In any case, I wanted to point out particularly the physical aspect of NE, because people seem to think that it's all about concepts or it's all abstract. No, NE looks at real-world situations just like SE. They are two ways of looking at actual concrete situations. SE looks at the facts, and NE looks at the patterns that those facts make. Each has its advantages. SE might miss out on the bigger picture pattern, but NE may gloss over and miss out on the actual details like the food quality, which is perhaps why SE leads are often among the world's top chefs. NE leads are disproportionately represented among entrepreneurs, though, as they are great at spotting trends and making minor adjustments in a feedback loop with those trends, to see if they can catch the trend, or guide it, or reverse it, if it's a trend that is undesirable for their business objective. Neither SE nor NE types will draw conclusions if they can help it, though. They just watch what happens and make adjustments. They both make concrete adjustments, but the SE user is aimed at creating a different outcome, while the NE user is aimed at creating different conditions of possibility, preventing or diminishing the likelihood of one possibility, and creating other new opportunities or possibilities, or increasing existing possibilities' likelihoods of happening. As Jung says, the NE lead tires when all possibilities have been exhausted, and there are no more adjustments that can be made to create new possibilities. I would add that the SE lead tires when the concrete outcomes are exhausted. For instance, when they have to make the same menu all the time. I have an ESFP friend who is a master chef and now has her dream job, working for a place that has a new menu every single day, so she is constantly getting to make new dishes. So this was my post here, and I'm going to do this video in two parts, so I'm just going to kind of wrap up. But I do want to put in one comment that was from. I'm going to type on there really quick. I'm going to say it's working now. Streaming now. So I'm on the unofficial Objective Personality Study group on Facebook, and there was a really nice comment by Alan Mokanu. And so I'm just going to, let's see if I can get his, let's see about it now. There we go. Okay. Alan Mokanu. Don't forget, those OE functions are axis-complemented OI. So OE is SE and NE. OI is NI and SI. So he's saying that these OE functions, SE is complemented by NI. It's axis complemented. And NE is complemented by SI. The way I view it is, if OE is gathering external to the self, then SE and NE are working off the same data set and applying different filters. That filter is essentially the OI which accounts for the different conclusions. For me personally, the decisions you referred to in the restaurant examples are all conclusions, just ones that aren't as deep as your NI example, but a conclusion via OI nonetheless. So I like that point that he makes. He's saying that, if the ESFP chef says, well, the pasta wasn't al dente enough, next time I won't cook it so long, they're still drawing a conclusion. And, if the ENFP says, nobody sits on the right side of the room, so why don't, maybe it's because it's close to the bathroom, why don't I put up a screen room divider, and why don't I put up some plants between the bathroom and the tables? Maybe that is because of their SI. Maybe it is a conclusion, and maybe because their SI is going, well, I remember, once I sat next to a bathroom in a restaurant, it wasn't very pleasant. So I see what he's saying, and that's a really good point. They are conclusions. I guess I was just saying in my original post that the NE and the SE are going to delay concluding as much as possible. But I guess my real point, and I'll keep it to this now, is really just when we think about extrovert intuition, so often we're talking about concepts. People say, wow, they have so many ideas for all these different concepts, and they have such, they're so full of ideas. Well, yeah, they're full of ideas, but not every idea is for a concept. The idea can be an idea for how to physically do something or change the physical space. So it is metaphysical, it is a metaphysical function because it is about, I'm not going to take direct physical action. It's not like SE where it's like, oh, the bread was too cold, so I'm going to bring it out faster. No, I mean, it's an idea. It's like an idea of like, well, what if, but it's about observing the pattern and how do we adjust the possibilities. Like, how do we make it impossible for the bread to be cold? You know, maybe we put the table right next to the kitchen so that way, or where the bread comes out, so as soon as it comes out, you get it. But even that, you know, the interesting thing to me is that I find that the SE user, they might draw a conclusion like, okay, I'll bring the bread out faster, or I'll cook the pasta shorter time so it's more al dente, but they're not really going to do what NI does. Introverted intuition is going to take into account all of the different things, and it's going to try to make inferences as quickly as possible with as little information as possible. So that NE user comes to the INTJ and says, well, I've noticed people, you know, come from 12 to 2, and they come at night, and I noticed this and this. The INTJ, or the INFJ, is going to say, now hold on a minute, let's look at the big picture here. I mean, I hate the stereotype of NI as big picture, but let's look at the whole picture. It doesn't have to be big. We can just say, let's look at the whole thing. Let's look at all of the different factors. And what they're going to try to do is weigh those different factors, and they're going to weigh different possible conclusions. So that SE user concludes, you know, the bread came out of the oven hot, it got to the table slower, so we need to bring it to the table faster. And they're going to conclude, well, as soon as the bread comes out, they're going to tell the server, bring it to the table. Well, the NI lead is going to be like, there's a lot of reasons maybe the bread didn't get there fast enough. There's a lot of reasons it wasn't hot enough. Maybe the oven wasn't hot enough. Maybe, or you know, maybe it was stored in a cold place. It was right next to the fridge, or it was maybe there are too few servers and there weren't enough servers and they were too busy, so they weren't able to get to the bread fast enough. Or, you know, there could be like so many different things. Maybe the server was really angry and intentionally did that to antagonize, or maybe they were avoiding the, you know, who knows what. There's all different possible conclusions you can draw. But I guess what I'm trying to say is the NI user is going to be trying to take into account all these different things, and that's why my examples for NI were kind of generalizations like, well, also about what's important, which might have more to do with FI, but you know, the NI user might say, well, we're really focusing on the bread here, but actually we have a systemic problem. The problem is we have not yet found a server that's happy here. The real problem is we're not paying them enough. If we paid them enough, they would be happier, or we'd be able to pay them more and get a higher caliber of server, or who knows what. There's so many different possibilities, right? But NI is going to ideate over possible conclusions, possible extrapolations, possible pictures we might make out of the different data. NE is going to ideate over possible things we could change or actions we could take that might change the concrete situation. All right, look for part 2 in probably the next day, because I'd really like to continue talking about this. And also, if you have any questions or comments or ideas or anything at all that you think in terms of your observations about extroverted intuition, you know, what is your relationship? Are you an ENTP or an ENFP or an INTP or an INFP? What is your relationship to physicality, and how do you see your extroverted intuition ideating about the physical? Please comment about that, because I'm really interested in that. I kind of want to bust the stereotype that NE doesn't engage with the physical, because I think it really does. I think an NE user can make an incredible interior designer, because they think of little things you can do to change the environment, to change the possibilities, what's possible in that room. You know, I actually think of NE as much more of an interior design function than SE. And, you know, so maybe I can go more into that in the next video. In any case, thank you so much for watching. Shout out to host Eric and March MBTI Madness. Shout out to Dave Superpowers and Shan Renee. And shout out to all of the members of the Unofficial Objective Personality Facebook group. Alan Mokanu, great comment, and everyone else who commented on that thread. I really appreciate it. If you have any ideas at all, please comment. If you like the videos, please subscribe, and don't forget to vote for me in the MBTI March Madness competition that is happening on host Eric Strauss's YouTube channel, Talking with Famous People. So go on over to Talking with Famous People and you can cast your votes. All right, you have been watching Talking Type, or Type Talk as I call it, with your host, Jonah Dempsey. Thanks for watching.